If you had a billboard at Times Square, what message would you have on it?
Oh, that's a good one.
Go with something political then, but I wouldn't possibly do that. I'd never be able to visit that country again. I'm happy to listen to all sorts of people and all sorts of opinions and things like that, but I think some people who are just repeating other people aren't getting the point of being an influencer.
Let's call it out. Some influencers are full of crap and it's just absolute nonsense. Hi everybody, welcome back to UnEDited with me, your host Ed Gould. And as is always the case, we're bringing you great conversations with interesting people from the world of business, marketing, creativity and technology, and today is no exception. I'm going to introduce you to Lucy Whittington, a best-selling author and a marketing strategist who over the last 20 years has been working on the front line of software marketing and sales. And Lucy has a very strong view. Software companies are getting it wrong. Why do they keep selling us on features and not on feel? So today's conversation is a brand and marketeer's dream. We're going to dig into what software companies and any other organizations which are mainly sales-led can do to really sharpen the point on performance of marketing. Listen all the way through to the end for some top tips from Lucy, and also to hear about her MOX methodology, which is something that she applies in the work that she does. As always, I invite you to get in touch if you've got questions, and more importantly, if you think you're the type of person, or you know the type of person who we should feature on an edition of UnEDited. So if you're ready, I won't say any more. I'll let Lucy do the introductions. Let's sit back, relax, and get ready for another unedited conversation. Hi everybody, and welcome to another unedited conversation with me, Ed Gould. It's the place where we talk to marketing leaders, creatives and technologists, which I've picked up and met on my 30-year history. And today we're meeting someone new. We're going to talk to Lucy Whittington. So I don't like to introduce you because that would mean I'd have to learn your whole bio. But you know it's unedited. So what's and all? Who are you? Where are you from?
Oh gosh, so I am a marketeer by trade, but I am not very good at sitting in the corner and just doing marketing. So I've managed sales teams. I like to work with the whole customer journey. I'll get stuck into the sales process. I'll get stuck into all sorts of things. So I like to help people deal with the bit from when people find out about them for the first time all the way through to they've sold to them and they want to keep them happy. So any kind of comms and processes to do with that, that's what I like to get stuck into.
And would you describe yourself as a more analytical marketer, a creative marketer? How would you split that?
Definitely,
a strategist?
Yeah, creative and strategy. I like to spot the gaps in things. I like to find out, like, take things apart, put them back together a bit better, usually leaving some stuff out that's got overcomplicated. So yeah, I like to look at what's happening and put a strategy together and really kind of direct. Yeah.
So the reason I was excited to meet properly, we've had a quick chat, but not much of a chat, is one of the subjects that is close to my heart is the wonderful world of technology and especially software, which I do a fair bit in. And once we had that chat, I went, hang on, I could pick up some tips from this person. So from a background point of view, can you paint a bit of a picture of your work history and why you're well placed to say software companies are doing it wrong?
So I actually first worked for a software company over 30 years ago. So we're both veterans, I think that calls us. And I always say that, you know, I'm so old that I used to write the words on the outside of boxes that software came in, which is a comment lost on younger people because they don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I've worked in software for a long time, usually business to business software. And, you know, I've worked from, you know, them coming on discs, coming in boxes, selling in like small fixed type software, kind of just making offices work better, all the way through to kind of more strategic and, you know, accounting and finance and payroll and other things like that. So I've been around software a really long time. I've seen software get much more complicated. I've seen people talk about things that they think make it more exciting, like AI. And for me, it's always just been about solving a problem. You know, the software's been written to solve a problem, whether that's a simple problem. I mean, you know, one of the things I worked on a long time ago was things like WinFax, you know, turning your turning your computer into a fax machine. I mean, obviously that's an example of, you know, is the faster horse.
Hey, look, and
But-
I obviously I'm only 19, but just to clearly date myself, that was quite exciting.
It was exciting.
When I could actually send the fax through. I'm like, this is revolutionary.
I mean, obviously now we've moved on to like maybe email,
No
and
fax.
DocuSign, and no faxes at all. But and there were another piece of software I worked on, quite a long time ago was something that turned your home router when you had like plug-in dial-up internet. I'm really aging myself now, and it allowed you to share 2 computers on one router.
Oh my word.
I mean,
Revolutionary.
yeah, this is a big deal. It wasn't like, is it my turn to send email?
I think one of the wonderful things about the world of software is just how quickly it evolves and how old that now sounds, even though it really isn't that long. So when you think of major business or businesses in the economy and how they drive value, software as an entity, it's not that old, but the way in which they approach it and the way in which these large-scale businesses, especially the corporates, are run, is very much in line with age-old corporate structures.
Yeah.
But the actual product is all about innovation and change and the next big thing. And so I guess what I'm interested in is why aren't they embracing that idea of innovation through? Because often the approach of software marketers, and when we're hard to work with them, it starts from a position of things like, right, these are our new features. I need to communicate these new features out to the audience, and I'll do a user group event.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of typical, and they're not awful things. You need them. But the observation that we made when we were chatting previously, and something I've talked a lot and been fired for in some instances talking about, is that doesn't go far enough to engage on a value sort of proposition.
It's
point.
boring.
So what's your sort of hypothesis for the soft? Because you specialize in this area. You're a gun for hire. Are you a gun for hire?
I'd like to call it a consultant.
She's a consultant, everyone. It's not a gun, but you're highly experienced in this area, and you've worked with massive brands through to startups and everything in between.
Yeah.
You're an author as well.
Yes.
How would you, as a wordsmith and a consultant, how would you summarize your hypothesis for the software marketing?
I think software companies get confused by their excitement over new technology and businesses who have things to fix. They have problems to solve. They're trying to do something better, easier, faster, save some time, save some money, do something in a better way. And they don't really care about all the fancy stuff that does that. They want to do something better. And I think when you have conversation with a lot of software companies, they're naturally very excited about what they do and what they've done and what they've solved, but they don't tell us enough about where this fits into us as a business owner. Where does this fit into my life? How are we going to use? Why is it exciting that I can use 2 computers at the same time? Why is it exciting that you've now? I worked on Xero when Xero launched in the UK. It's like that was a big change from accountants having accounting software that did accounting things to talking about you're a business owner. You have to do your accounts. You're not an accountant. That's a different way of solving a problem.
Xero is a good example of a persona-led approach, and they're not bad at that. I think there's Xero have got good and challenging things about it, but like in terms of how they engage, certainly that makes sense. So, do you think is it about software companies tech people are so focused on the problem that they're trying to solve with their own technology, they struggle to look outward, or because they are designing a solution to a problem?
Yeah, I think it's context as well. I think, like anything, when you do what you do, you're an expert in it, you're really good at it, you think and talk about it every day, and you forget that that's a small part of someone else's life. So the thing that you're selling to a customer is potentially a small part of their bigger business, and they're more excited about their business than the little thing that you solve.
Okay.
So it is about context. And I also think that in certain business software, especially, it's about a change program. It's not just about, we get new software, it's going to solve our problems. Yeah, it's not, buying a new accounting software doesn't make you profitable. It doesn't mean you've got better cash flow. It means you have a better tool with which to manage and measure and do that. But it's in a wider context. It's, very often especially more kind of enterprise level or bigger kind of SaaS solutions, they're not like little nice to have little add-ons, or we can just have this little extra toy. They're significant
pieces
investment.
Of change,
yeah, and people will talk about onboarding and things like that, and I really think the sales process starts way before that. It's where do you come in a change management program often? Where do you come in this business's growth plans? Like, they're not just going to wake up one day and go, oh, we need a new thing. I mean, look, we work in marketing, right? We know that some people, some business owners will immediately, if things aren't working, they're not getting enough leads, or something's not working in their business, they want to grow, they'll go immediately to a marketing tactic. They'll go, we need to do PR. We need to run some ads. We need a new website. So
knee jerk.
And it's that reaction that sometimes people go, well, we need new software. And so they might go then shopping for new software to solve this business problem that they perceive they have. And then some software businesses will then sell them that without actually going a few steps back and going, well, why are you looking for that? What is the problem you're trying to solve? What is happening in your business? And I think a lot of software companies don't do enough kind of context and almost business consultancy, which would massively help them to have a better onboarding experience. We'll have the software much improved stickiness. And it's about going a few stages before. I've worked on a project recently where, this organization had built a really great software product for their own use, and they've been developing it for like 10 years. They've been using it. It was really amazing. They had loads of developers working on it. They'd worked on it, and they wanted to take that out. And I've done this a few times. I've worked with businesses who've written software for themselves and then gone, hang on a minute, this might be useful to other businesses like us. And often it is. But it's the context of how you do that. And with them, it was very much like, we came up with this process of like, well, it's people, process, and then platform. So they wanted to just go straight in and sell the platform. And they did try that with a few customers. And it's like, what we were finding is like, well, dialing it back a bit, you need the people involved in the business to understand, why are we doing this? What are the problems we're solving? How are you going to go, get people on board? There's nothing worse than coming in and going, right, we've got a new system. You've got to learn it.
I've seen it happen a million
times.
It's happened
so many times.
I've seen it in my own business. I've seen it more in, I get to helicopter into so many different organizations. And when you get to I've been the one that they're going, we need some marketing. And then you ask why, and you go, oh, no, you don't. You need to actually sit down and think that through a lot better.
Well, they'll go, we get a HubSpot. You're like, great. It's not going to make your marketing better.
That's exactly the one I'm thinking of.
I knew you were thinking
That's
of that.
exactly the one I'm thinking of.
But it's the same thing. It's like, you can't just get a new CRM and your marketing will be better.
And nothing we're saying is to say that the individual, any brand we mention, it's nothing to do with the software.
Not at all.
It's to do with the relationship in that buying experience that often people that are being paid lots of money for companies, they want to make an impact.
Yep.
A good thing they can say, this is one problem that comes up. Well, I'll tell them to change the software stack because I know how to use that, and that's good. And that might be the motivation. But there isn't enough. I totally agree. There's not enough activity from the actual vendor to make sure that it's going to stick. And I've seen marketing automation is a prime example. I've seen one client, within 3 years working with them, they had gone through every marketing automation. They had spent probably £500,000 on
and that's not the problem. The process is the problem. That I one of my pet peeves is people that talk about call software a system. I'm like, no, a system is a system. And that's a set of processes or standard operating procedures or whatever you want to call it. That's your system. That's how you work. And then your software is just what helps you do it. And if you think your software is going to give you systems, in some cases it can help, or it can have some things built into it that maybe have been thought through and it's a good benchmark and they've been used a lot of times and it's got kind of, best practice, because that's why the software's been developed. But when you try and backwards engineer
write the system and fit the software to the system.
No, or at least know what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. At least know what you're trying to achieve as a business, and then go shopping for your software.
So how do you, so we'll come at it from a couple of angles today. I think there's, as a marketeer working for these, I'm interested in that. I'm also interested in some practical tips for us poor businesses that are buying all of this stuff, which is more to do with change. But in the first instance, when you're working with a software company and you come in, what's the typical engagement they're bringing you in on, and what are the typical challenges that you're facing, and how do you begin to get people to work through? Have you got a process and methodology? Talk me through it.
So when I go in and work with a software business, they're usually at that stage. Firstly, as with many things, I wish they'd called me earlier. Because they're usually at that stage of like, we've built the thing, or we're ready to launch, we've got this new version.
Like,
like
oh,
right, can we tell everyone about
all
it?
Of this.
Yeah. But in an ideal world, I would wanted to have known about that before, so we can be working in parallel to then, there's stuff being built up in the marketing before it launches. I don't have to dampen their enthusiasm, but I have to kind of channel it a bit better, because they're very excited about what they've built and what they've done. But it's about putting it again in the context, understanding, is this going to work? Does it, are people as excited about the problems you're solving as you think they might be? And often, it's about, what are you putting out in the market? Again, sometimes they might have put all of the features in all at once, and they may or may not be needed. Or if they're in there, we only need to talk about 3 of them. Like, they're the 3 that make a difference. The rest might be in there because it's expected, or it's just, you wouldn't buy a car and expect it not to have an engine and some tyres and a steering wheel, but you might want to talk about...
Comes with a free steering wheel.
Hurrah! And it's, it's understanding what are the things that are going to make a difference. So, my methodology is called MOPS, MOPS, which is message, offer, positioning, and sales process.
Now, she spelt it because I misspelt it on my show notes, everybody. Thanks, ChatGTP.
You're welcome. But even though it's in that order, I always start with offer. So, and this is with any marketing, strategy or plan I'm doing. But if the offer's not right, then we won't have the right message around it. We won't know what it's doing. We won't know where to position it.
Do you find that the business is able to on the whole, can they instantly tell you what that offer is, or is that part of a piece of proposition work that you then have to do to try and make it real?
That's usually here's the big list of things that the software does.
Oh, so the offer is
here's the software it does. Gets up massive list.
Okay,
features, and so they're usually clear about the problem it solves, but it's not necessarily articulated and put in the window from a marketing context. But it's really important also to not assume that you're going to launch and sell, thousands of them on day one, whatever it is. And I'm a massive believer in pilot programs or a beta or rolling out in a contained way, and telling people about that, being really open. This is the pilot, this is the beta, like what, depending whether you want 5 people using it or 50 or whatever the context is. If it's an app, you might want 1,000 people using it. But if it's, a really in-depth piece of SaaS software that's business critical, you might only want 5 pilots. But having that really articulated, this is what it's for. We want to have a partnership with you. We want you to really get in and use this with us. We've got a plan. We think this is how it's going to work. We think these are the benefits, but we want you to work with us and tell us, like a real partnership.
Is that a hard thing to get businesses to invest in? Because if I think about it from another sector sort of point of view, it's that sort of Unilever approach to marketing of test 2,000 times before you launch.
Yep.
And obviously not every... So is there a scale that you need to be as a software company to really launch properly in that? Because you've got to do a lot of work on the test and the beta and the...
Yeah, it does depend. It does depend who your market is. For me, one of the best ways to sell software is referenceability, case studies, examples, testimony. Again, people want to see what business problems has this solved. Is the business like mine? Am I going to get the same benefits? So if you're in, if it's a complex piece of software and it's going to take 3 to 6 months to embed and really get people using it and get results at the end, you might only need a handful. 5 case studies might be enough for you to then go, right, we can go out and have
we can paint that
sales
picture.
Conversations now. We've got real evidence and we can show people what it looks like. For other things, it might be, okay, well, it's an app. We need to get this many, 5-star reviews on the App Store. It depends, and everything in between. Your market, again, and how people buy. So, if it's an app, people will go on the reviews or what's on the Instagram or what they can see other people talking about. Whereas if it's, business critical, we've got to stop doing something the way we've always done it. We've got to do a big change. We've got to do training. We've got to do this. They're really going to want to dig in.
These are the factors around it. Any challenge that you're facing in a business, whether you're a marketeer or anything, you sort of, what are all these levers around it and all these influencing factors? But let me take you back to your MOPS Got that right?
MOPS, yep.
MOPS. So go through the acronym again. So I've got it in my head.
Message, offer, positioning, and sales process.
Okay, so we're sort of like, and if I look on the shelves beneath me, I think I've got my old CIM books, but there's parallels there between, you know, really getting into the P's and the price
and
proposition.
the sales process is, you know, every stage from awareness, telling people about it, to, you know, interest, where they're getting more information, finding out about it, like, you know, to experience it, to showing them how it works, giving them some evidence of this is how it works, and then taking them through to the sales process. And, you know, some software sales are very consultative. And if you're not embracing that in your marketing process, if you're expecting to talk about the features and then the sales team to take over, I think that's a massive mistake. I think marketing needs to be, you know, much as this pains me, doing the heavy lifting for the sales team. In an ideal world, you've talked about all the ways this software works, how this is going to work, what the program might look like. Here's some examples of how it's worked. Here's how people have introduced it into their business. Here's the difference it's made. Here are lots of questions that are answered for you in the marketing process, whether that's, you know, in-depth case studies, lots of videos, it's checklists. It's like, take a review, get your score on how you are in this stage, you know, see where you've got some gaps, lots of self kind of, you know, awareness around, you know, qualifying in, is this something we need? What are the typical outcomes we could expect? Really understanding it so that when it gets to the sales conversations, it's very much like, I understand what the software does. Now, can you just tell me how it's going to work for my business?
I might be wrong in this. So you've got more experience in this area than me, but many software retailers seem to have a traditional sales focused approach. So you'll probably find a revenue officer or a commercial officer that sits above market, you know, the C-suite. Is that still the case? That was certainly my impression a few years ago. Is that still the case? Because the example you're giving there is actually, marketing has to support that sales team. But the experiences sometimes I've had is that they're quite disconnected. There's not a lot of parity between or alignment between those two teams. How are you reading that on the ground? And what can they do to improve that?
Sales and marketing will always have their
Well, it comes up every blooming podcast. It's unbelievable.
I mean, it's really interesting. In a software context, in an ideal world, you have a product manager.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, you have a product manager who's there to, you know, be the Switzerland to sales and marketing and you know, communicate between them and communicate with the technology team as well. Because let's not forget that the technology team will have their agenda of, we want to talk about all these features, we're doing all this clever stuff.
Is that product manager really meant to sit between those and represent the customer? Or
they're supposed to balance they sit between commercials, so that's sales and marketing, and then the development and technology and you know, so they're managing the roadmap essentially, so that when sales go, oh, if we just add this, I'm going to make loads of sales, and marketing are going, we can't really talk about that because that's not our positioning or we're not in that market. They're balancing those requests with development going, well, we can't add that. It's going to put the roadmap back by 12 months or 6 months. So it's balancing all those factors, but it's also understanding what's important. I think, you know, when sales and marketing work well together, they understand what their roles are. And, you know, a lot of big software implementation is consultative sales. It's very much, you know, you need to be an expert in the customer's business. You don't just need to be an expert in your software. You need to understand what their challenges are, where this might make a difference, where it won't make a difference, where they might need to change some things before it will make a difference, and actually having that conversation with the customer. You know, other software is much more straightforward. It's just, this is what it does. Are you here? Are you having this problem? Can we help you with that? And some software can be self-service.
It's that difference between enterprise software, which there's a huge market for, and everyone's trying to make the stuff that every manufacturing unit work or and then the software that me and you use as normal human beings.
Sure.
Is that
but also,
is it very different when you approach those two things, or
it is and it isn't? I think the mistake is that we, you know, quite a lot of the software that we use day to day
is a byproduct of the
it needs more context and it needs more explanation. It's that same thing of like, well, actually, we can't just dump this on everyone and tell them this is how we're going to run our communication. You know, you can't just go, oh, well, we're ditching Slack, we're using Notion, or we're now moving to this CRM, or we're doing
every
that.
day.
But
Those
this is it,
are
and you
happening.
forget about the disruption and why is this a good idea and what are we trying to achieve? And, you know, all right, we're not going to have anyone, you know, we're going to use automation for all appointment setting. And then you're like, well, does it understand the rules? Does it understand that this person can't do a Wednesday afternoon? Does it, you know, even really simple software, like you've just said, you should be able to just, you know, grab Calendly and set it up and do whatever. Like, where's the human element of that? How is this fitting in with our business systems? And again, going back to how do we work as a business and being able to have that conversation. Now, that's not to say you necessarily need a sales team. You need sales assets.
Yeah.
So those could be, you know, videos and information sheets and whatever you want to put together, or really great kind of onboarding little click here. It shows you how to do it, run videos. You don't have to have a sales team, but you have to have sales assets.
I'm thinking about, and we're a small business, but I'm thinking about the majority of the software we use and buy. I've never spoken to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, from Adobe, which we spend a lot of money with. Once in a while they call us to try and hope Canva doesn't. They're calling a lot more at the moment. Yeah. They're really
as their
calling
prices
now.
have gone up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very different now. It used to be, you know, and in years gone by, Quark Express before.
Yeah, of course,
you know,
but that's because
that's
they've become.
Change.
But that's because their positioning is they're dominant in that market. They're the, you know, the default. The, you know, showing my age now, but it's the whole, you know, you don't get fired for buying IBM. Well,
it's
if
something
you're
I still say now.
But if you're a design house, you're going to use Adobe Suite, right? That's just what you're going to use until something comes along to challenge that. So,
do you know what's challenged it? Clients.
Yeah.
So because software has become so available to so many people and so simple that they're turning around and going, well, we've got Canva, can you use that? And you know, as a producer, you have to make the decision, well, my value here is making the idea. I can put it into Canva and we can do it that way. One of the hot topics here is, and Louis is lurking in the dark of this room. If you're watching, then he's behind the camera. If you're listening, he's very close. And Louis has the biggest frustration in the world, which I'll try and tell you, which is we use some software for podcasting remotely and recording remotely.
Know exactly which one it is.
Riverside. We'll say it. And
Used
we love
it myself.
We love it. It's great. We love it. What we don't love, and we wonder what your take is how software is trying to gamify by pricing up features, taking features away that used to be there. And there's obviously a strategic decision going on there. It's a really wonderful piece of software, but it's starting to hurt people because they can't do their job because the feature's been revoked, or you've got to then go back to your boss again and go, you know, I sold you on that business case for this much money.
Can I have some more?
Can I have some more? And in most businesses, the answer will be, no, we've spent ages going through that. Just use what you've got. Do you see, is there a strategic conversations within software of having to, because it reminds me of like mobile games and like upselling on like gems or something. So what's going on there and what are they trying to achieve? And, or do you see it as a bit of a silly?
Well, I can imagine there's some interesting meetings between product managers and look, I'm not in any of those businesses. My take on that would be that's a commercial conversation.
Sounds like it, doesn't
it? Someone who's more commercially motivated is saying, how can we make more money out of the customers we already have? Probably the marketing department isn't happy about that. It would be my take. Because that's not a nice communication to have with clients and customers. It could be a mismatch between, you know, not understanding your customers, not listening to them, not polling them, not having a great user group, not knowing what they really want, and understanding, you know, what is going to be the backlash of that. I think that's something that's really important that you've mentioned there, is that, you know, we started this by talking about, oh, people just want to talk about all the features. It's like, well, some of the features are just expected to be there. You know, they're just, you know, they're hygiene factors. They're like, well, it has to do X, Y, Z because otherwise it wouldn't be this type of software. And if you start taking some of those away, then people are going to get really upset because that's the reason they bought the software. Personally, I wouldn't want to be the marketer in charge of communicating why we were taking things away. I would imagine that was a commercially driven decision.
And I just wondered if there's a trend in other software houses doing the same thing. I mean, pay to play and points and ways of charging for software is definitely changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we said, we used to buy boxes with floppy disks in. Then CDs, then DVDs, then downloads. But you're no longer buying that media, just like films, just, it's a more streaming.
It's
So we're
subscription-based.
seeing that evolution of subscriptions.
I think a lot of people have been playing with the pricing model. There was certainly
trying to find the
sweet spot. And then some people are getting it wrong. I've been in certain industries where, companies have been bought out or taken over, and all of a sudden, the prices have gone up 2-3 times. There's been huge backlash. People are then looking for alternatives. That's then a great marketing opportunity if you are working for one of those alternatives, because you can show up with a migration option of, we can take you from here to there, and it's not going to be difficult. I think something that I would like to see more of, and I certainly encourage it with my clients, is, just do all inclusive. It's like, not everyone's going to use every part of that software, but there's some things that are worth paying for. If it costs you more money as a business, obviously, to have extra seats, then you charge per seat. If it doesn't, and that people are going to use half of the features, but it'll be a different half to one person than the other half, just sell an all-inclusive package. It gets to the point where you have to decide, do you want to be Ryanair of software, or do you want to just,
or be the BA.
Yeah, be BA or Singapore Airlines or someone where it's just you get on and everything's
I think
included.
There's something much more powerful in certainly saying
That's
to me as a
positioning,
customer.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Saying, look, this is the dream of what we're positioning. Now, if you don't want all of that, every bit you take off will charge you less each month. But the price, you're selling the whole of it rather than selling the whole of it, but charging there and then it's selling
just,
up.
For me, it's
a relationship thing.
It is relationship building. It's respecting your community. It's building a great community. Software companies that I've seen do really well have incredible / slightly sometimes fanatical users. They want to go to user group. They want to add more features. They want to be involved in roadmap conversations. They want to feel that they own a part of that software. It's important to them. If that's critical to your business, this is flipping this around again. We're talking about a lot of this is business critical software. It's not just nice little apps or things that you play with that are helpful. If that's really important to your business, it's important to you. And you want to feel like you're in control of, like, this isn't going to double in price, or they're not going to take this feature away, or can I get them to add this in because this would make my life better.
It's also where I think that word authenticity comes in from a brand point of view, that I've been involved in software user groups and afterwards they've just walked away from that and they're not going to do anything about the feedback. And you just think, you are playing with fire there.
What's the point? That's almost
why
worse.
Have we all come here? And you're sitting
be.
there and I'm like facilitating it, getting really great stuff out. Go, what would you do? And it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. That's worse than not having a user group.
You may as well not have the user group and be honest and say, this is what you get. So I think, we've talked about what they're doing wrong and how maybe to do it right. Can you give me an example of it doesn't need to be brands you've worked on, but to try and paint a picture, is there anything examples that stand out of brands in software that are really getting it right from that point of view?
Yeah, so I think there's two types of software brands I think work really well. The ones that do one thing, do it really well, and do it well enough that other people will just tell other people about it. Like, I mean, you can say what you want, but referrals still are one of the best ways to sell anything, even software. And whether that's facilitated referrals with, online reviews or, scoring or rating, or it's literally asking your business friend or your actual friend, like, what do you use to do this? Can you recommend me something? Software that also helps facilitate telling other people or showing other people how good it is amazing. So something like Slack or Calendly we've talked about, or or Notion or anything like that, where when you use it,
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is, because you invite someone into a team, or you invite someone to share something, or
the
like,
note takers,
look at my Figma board, or look at my this.
Working,
exactly. And you see other people go, oh, how are you transcribing that? Oh, I'm using Otter, or I'm doing this. And if you've got a good service, I've got a Remarkable, for writing on and things like that. And I have paid for my Remarkable from all the referrals that every time I get it out and start, oh, what's that? That's amazing.
Software houses, here's a new model. Start not making me pay for it if I'm promoting your brand that much.
But this is still, we think we need to do loads of we need to do promos, we need to pay. No, just make what it does, do one thing really well. So that, and also if you can build in some natural sharing of getting other people to be invited to use the thing that you've built, running projects on HubSpot and inviting external teams into them, then they get to see what it's like, or doing the same with a Slack channel or whatever. People see that and they see what it does, And you're obviously using it for a reason. And then it's that whole thing of like, well, if you think it's good and you're using it, then it must be good because I trust you. And therefore, so it's that, they get to experience it. They've got evidence that it's good. They've all, they've got a testimonial, a living, breathing one because you're actually using it. All those things work really, really well. And those would be examples. Other examples would be where a software company, the thing it does is so simple, but it's used in the context of helping people do something else. So a really great example of this is very niche. I apologise in advance, but I've spent a lot of time hanging around in the accounting software industry. And a piece of software started a few years ago called Go Proposal. And it was a very simple piece of software. It helped accountants price up their work. It was like a live proposal system where they would sit with a client. But what James Ashford, who started the business, was really smart about is he helped accountants get better at selling because they don't like having sales conversations. They don't like, talking about price. They certainly didn't like charging for every single thing they did. They'd just go, oh, here's the fee for the thing at the end of the year, but then actually help people throughout the year and not price up all the advice or other activities they were doing. So they weren't as profitable. And so by him writing a really simple piece of software that did live proposals, he actually spent most of his time educating, talking. He wrote books about it. He'd be doing webinars, videos. I mean, he was a content, he's a content machine, but he really helped accountants get better at selling. Oh, and by the way, here's a little live proposal thing that will help you do it.
This is one of the bits.
It was like the 80-20 rule around the other way. He spent 80% of his time focused on helping that market do better. And then, and then the software
and the
wasn't
payoff
that,
is
the
the
software wasn't
there.
that cheap, and really what he was teaching them, they didn't technically need the software. They could, everything they were gaining from what he was teaching. But of course they used the software because that was part of
that's
the
an age-old
method.
And
he sold that to Sage for a very large amount of money because he'd built up an incredible user group of people who had got so much out of the relationship they had with a software company that didn't act like a software company. It was a consulting, mentoring almost environment.
The enabling power of software rather than the features.
It's just, what can this help you to do rather than just bang on about, oh, we've got a new fancy thing here. No one cares.
Okay, we're going to come back onto the subject, but as it's season 2, we've got Louis' lightning round.
Oh no, I need a drink before this.
Have
it's
a
only
drink.
Water,
now,
by the way.
dear listener, our friend Louis that lurks in the dark in the Black Box studio here on the south coast of the UK has created his very own round called Louis' Lightning Round. Neither of us know what's going to happen. Are you ready?
I'm afraid.
What colour am I going to hit, Louis? Blue, yellow or pink?
Press the bottom right arrow.
Yep, so pink it is. Okay.
No time to think. No messing around. Get your answers ready. It's Louis' Lightning Round.
Wow, good trail. We love the trail. Number 1.
If your industry disappeared overnight, what would you be doing instead?
Okay.
Oh,
dear.
Define industry, so marketing in its entirety. If it disappeared,
why not? Why not?
What would I be doing?
If you weren't doing what you do, what would you be doing?
I'd have to find some other way to talk for a living.
Public speaker. I think that's a good call.
I've done it. I've written books. I've spoken. I mean, I'd just have to host a podcast, or maybe I could be a travel influencer. I don't know. Okay,
then you get the perks of the job. Okay, I like that. What would I be doing if I wasn't doing marketing? Front man of a world famous band.
Excellent.
Wow. Call the bullshit on that one.
I'll be a manager.
If you had a billboard at Times Square, what message would you have on it?
Oh, that's a good one. If you had a billboard at Times Square, what message would you put on it? Let's say it's for your book or for your own business.
Obviously, I was trying to go with something political then, but I wouldn't possibly do that. I'd never be able to visit that country again.
Yeah, the obvious.
The obvious. So I wrote a book a few years ago called Find Your Thing. So I think my message would be, do your thing.
I liked, yeah. And the nub of that, I had a little look. I can't say I've read it.
It's fine.
But I did have a little look at the synopsis. But tell us a little bit about why you wrote that and why it's important to you.
So I wrote this book a few years ago. I used to work with a lot of people who were, solo business owners and just doing the thing that they knew how to do, that they were qualified in. And they would always get stuck with, but how do I tell people I'm different to everyone else? It came from a marketing perspective. It's part of my evolution of like, well, it's your message and what you do and how you do it and what your philosophy is and what your approach is. It was just more catchy to call it, find your thing, because people always imagine that that's very elusive. They're like, oh, but I'm just an accountant, or I'm just a lawyer, or I'm just a dog whisperer, or whatever they are. But how you do the thing you do is different to everyone else. It has to be, because it's based on your experience, your values, your approach, just how you see things differently. Like, get 10 marketers in a room, we'll all see something different. It always happens. It's not that any of us is right or wrong. It's just we will bring ourselves into that environment, and we will look for different things, and we will hear different things. And it's about taking that and then putting that in your shop window, whatever your business is.
So I guess it starts from an amount of personal honesty and thinking about, because I totally agree. This, especially when you're working with the next generation, there's a lot of angst about purpose and position and all this. And actually, people are really unique, and the things that we're doing are unique, and they do mean something. You don't need to be...
You don't need to invent a persona.
You don't need to pretend that you're saving the world to make a difference.
Yep.
And I think, unfortunately, nowadays, there's so much emphasis on sort of world-changing individuals, probably more than there's been for years. I mean, when I was young, maybe you had a Richard Branson, and that was about, But now, like, everyone's a podcaster, a creator, an influencer, a social media expert, whatever, and there's people making huge strides, and you can sometimes feel a bit like, well, I'm not doing anything, but you are. Everyone's doing something different.
Everyone's different, and it's just about how you want to communicate that. And, some of the things I talk about, and this ties in with positioning for a business, or whether it's, you're a solo business, is like, what's the role you want to play for other people? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a guide? Do you want to be a cheerleader for people? Do you want to kind of be gently behind them, kind of almost like literally what is the position you want to take with someone? Do you want to be in front of them telling them what to do? Or do you want to be, behind them, gently guiding them or encouraging them, or on the sidelines? Yeah, I mean, maybe there's that option as well, or shouting at them really loudly. But sometimes we, even within that, there'll be different people whose different personalities suit those different roles. I know I've got business friends that play those different roles for me when I need them. Sometimes I do want someone to give me a kick and tell me to get on with stuff. Sometimes I do want someone to, be really understanding and kind and listen to me.
And having those people around you, the other thing I'd say about that is, if you're trying to find out about yourself, then having good, honest people around you that aren't the same as you,
correct,
is a really good way of just comparing and contrasting and going, okay, well, I know that's a great way of finding out your thing as well. And I think and other people talk about personal brand, but that's effectively,
I mean, one of the easiest ways to find your thing is for me, I always say it's two sides of a coin. It's either what you're really, really good at, and also what drives you mad. Like, what really irritates you when you see it done wrong or done badly, or
when you're motivated
too quick. It's like, I want to fix that. So it's understanding where that is, and it's just putting that in a business context. That's why often, as a consultant, I can go in, and there's a team there who, they've all been playing all these different roles, and it's very easy to come in as someone outside of the business, because you do become insular. You do start having the same conversations, or someone will dominate. And, it's just natural team dynamics that when you can go into a business that's running the marketing, maybe sales is shouting louder than the marketing, or maybe the product team is.
Would you describe yourself as a guide in that context, or?
Depends who it is.
So you you're it's a flexible thing as well.
Yeah. Sometimes I need to be a guide. Sometimes I need to be a mentor.
A catalyst.
Sometimes I need to be, I need to go
in.
But
I love that about what we do.
Chuck some ideas grenades in, and then stand back.
But I love that about being able to walk into a place and help other people find out an answer that they probably already knew.
Yeah.
You don't always have to come in with a new answer, but you have to come in with an ability to facilitate
and stick to that as well, and also have the confidence and authority to go, right, that's a bad idea, and here's why.
Yeah.
Or that's a good idea, but you need to do it this way. And again, bringing evidence, bringing experience, bringing context. It's not about necessarily telling people they're wrong. I mean, I spend quite a lot of my time editing people and tidying things up. So I'll come in, and there's never usually a shortage of ideas or ambition or enthusiasm or what they want to do. And sometimes I feel a bit bad, but I have to kind of go, okay, That's amazing. Let's hold that vision, but like, can we just dial it back and just run this beta for 5 people? You know, can we
start? Can we start?
But it's not even just start. It's start in a controlled way, a measured way, not in a, let's just like go out and talk. No, what do we want to get out of this beta process? What do we want that to look like? Is it to get testimonials? Is it to get feedback for the product team? Is it to do this? Is it to, speak to some users? Is it to really go through the process from the beginning? And even then it's like, we'll just get, like, my mate will do it. No, this is like, we need to do this properly. This is in a business context. We need to position even the small scale stuff. Otherwise it's not going to help you get to where you want to get to. So I do have to
channel in,
temper people.
if you're sat listening and you're wondering what your thing is, show notes, we'll put the link in there.
Okay.
Grab the book. Let's go to the third and final, because otherwise
There's more.
There's three. This is the big one. I don't know if this is the big. I've got no idea what's coming out of this.
What trend is everyone talking about that you don't buy into?
Flares. No.
Oh,
come on. It's got to be. What do you think?
A trend. I just think the influencer trend, some people aren't adding anything new to a conversation. I think I'm happy to listen to all sorts of people and all sorts of opinions and things like that. But I think some people who are just repeating other people aren't getting the point of being an influencer. That was very succinct and polite, wasn't it?
That was way more polite than we were hoping for. Let's call it out. Some influencers are full of crap and it's just absolute nonsense.
I love learning from people. I love listening to podcasts, reading books. Like I'm all for having people being more confident and sharing their opinions. But just
regurgitating and adding nothing new, I think, is quite dangerous because there's only so many hours in the day.
But it's like and now you get influencers commenting on other influencers, and it's like some kind of ever decreasing circle of please, no, I'd rather watch cat videos.
I think if you are take us back to
please,
when it was
cat
videos. But when you think about the impact on commercials budgets as well, I've seen vast amounts of money get spent on what I would describe as
vacuous?
Absolutely. Well, that is a very nice way. Thank God she came up with vacuous when she did. But really, nothing. And
a good influencer is amazing. Like, we didn't call them necessarily influencers, but like ambassadors or people, brand ambassadors, or people who would, real advocates, real people in your user group, like, people who would literally go out. It could be that they're a consultant, and this kind of comes back to like the context and where you can fit your software in. In some cases, I used to run things called a channel. When we were selling software, we would have a channel of people who were resellers, but they were absolute experts in going and having those conversations. So you might work with some brilliant consultancies who are far better placed to have the conversation, the business conversations of what needs to happen in a business and when, than your sales team. And they are your influencers. They are people who are going out and talking on your behalf.
We've been, as an industry, the from an agency point of view, we've been deemed influencers for marketing automation for years, and it feels like it's changing a bit now. We ducked out of it because actually it just felt ridiculous, felt absolutely ridiculous. Because I want to be able to offer I think there's more value in having an impartial view on tech stack and being able to do that. And so we were partnering with a couple. And so you end up chasing your own tail, isn't it? That's not what we exist to do.
No, you're not.
So we extracted ourselves from
the goal.
it. And that channel bit, I think it's brilliant. And, I've got clients that retail software, very specialist software in the auto and aerospace, and you need channel partners because
it's
they
too
are
hard. They're there. They're already embedded in the sales process. There's no point trying to work your way in if there are people already in there. And I just, that impartiality as well, I think's really interesting because, this comes back to that conversation about the difference between sales and marketing. It's like marketing want to make sure what we're selling is a good fit because ultimately we then get, question, well, what you're doing, the customer marketing, the loyalty, the stickiness, why haven't they stayed? And yes, that's part of the, customer service team or support team, whatever. But if you're not doing enough groundwork up front and the sales team are just selling And, you then have to pick up the well, everyone's unhappy now, or the churn's really high. Then that's, then there's just more pressure on marketing again to create more leads.
That's when the wheels
it's
start
really
wobbling
frustrating.
big time. And then someone goes and then another person comes in and changes it all again. And so you're trying to build that. And first of all, Louis, wonderful round there. Thank you very much. But you're trying to build that, I'm always trying to think about how do we optimize the marketing function and sales in the same. And my world is not sales, although, I've got a fairly strong understanding, having had to work with them for so long. But I agree with you. My task is to connect those dots so that the actual flow, because they've got information I want.
Yeah.
They've got the reason why people left. They've got the reason why people said no. They've got the things that they've got the reason why they got them over the line on it. Well, when you look at your last 10 sales, what was the bit that they moved? Well, I said this one bit. Oh, right. Let's do a feature on that.
I need to know that.
So they're so valuable to us. And it is a funny one because it does come up a lot in this. And I think it's it's almost like America and Russia, this sort of idea of always fighting forever. And it's like, it's not real anymore.
Yeah.
That is maybe, maybe it's not, but the sales and marketing bit, it is getting closer. And technology and software is part of that.
It should enable those conversations. It should help you qualify people in and out. It should be that sales should end up only having conversations with people that already know that this software could be the answer to their problems. For me, there's 3 simple yeses to sales. It's like, a customer needs to say, yes, I have this problem. Then the next one, which loads of people forget, is, yes, I want to solve this problem.
Oh, we're on for 3rd. Number
and then,
3.
yes, I want you to solve this problem for me.
And that's the one I'm always looking for.
But some people just go straight to we just need to you just want them to say yes to us. It's like, well, no. Do they actually, the one that people miss often is, do they actually want to solve the problem? Because let's be honest, some people like the problem that they have. That gives them something to talk about, complain about.
And I can agree. I can go, I recognise that problem. And you go, great, then buy it.
Great.
I go,
no, I don't care.
recognise it.
I recognise it. I'm not
couldn't
bothered.
give a toss about it. It's nothing
Exactly.
to do with my business because you've never asked me what I'm doing.
Or
in
it's
my
not
business.
hurting me enough, or honestly, or, and this is where marketing can help, maybe the misconception is the pain of fixing it is really big, but maybe it isn't. So if their experience is, but I spoke to my mate and they got new CRM and it was a blooming nightmare and no one used it and it was a disaster, that's because they had a bad experience with it. Whereas if you can, in your marketing, talk about, well, look, here's how you do it without making it a massive headache and it not working, and you can demonstrate that, then people go, all right, maybe I will buy that. So again, it's where marketing can come in and understand, why are people saying no?
No, I think that's great advice. I think so. We're getting towards the end, but I always want to sort of think a bit further into the future. We've not touched, thankfully, on the.
I'm like, here we go. AI's coming now.
I know.
Let's have that. You did mention ChatGPT earlier, briefly.
Yeah, I think that's enough. Because I think it's just software. Just for the record,
it is.
I think the process piece is the bit that people are missing.
Yeah, we
get the software bit, but the actual process. But when I talk to your point, I think it was a brilliant point. You're not buying a system.
No,
you're employing a piece of software that should be part of some designed out. And I think the next stage for all of us is to understand that area of it a lot more.
Yeah,
and I am trying to do that myself, and I'm sure we all are. But when you think about what you're up to and what your job and marketing and software more generally, what are you looking forward to? How do you see it? What do you think's next? And what are you looking for in the future?
I would like for people to recognise that, first of all, AI is not the answer to everything. And just putting AI enabled or machine learning on one of your feature lists is like, no one cares. So if you are going to employ AI, that's great, but tell us why.
I think people are getting fatigued.
Yeah, it's just like, what does it mean? I still want for the world to be about people communicating. Whether that's my age and how I've grown up, or it's I even see social media as like, surely that was just us wanting to connect with more people, communicate with more people. We still buy things from other people. Even if they're a faceless app or whatever, like the reason influencers are so popular is because we want to see the people behind it, or we want to understand why we're buying this or who solved this problem for us. Do we want to buy software written by other software? Don't know. It depends how important it is, again, to our business. If it's just an app that's going to save me 5 minutes here and there, or store this, or, solve a little 5-minute problem for me, I don't need to talk to anyone. But if I'm buying something that's critical to me and my life, I would like to know who's behind it. So I would also like to feel part of it. Like, we talked about user groups and a community. I think people still do want to have conversations with other people. It's still really nice sometimes. Someone else go, oh, have you tried this bit? Or have you done that with it? Or did you know we're doing this? Do you have that in your business? Oh, you could do that as well. Like, there's still space for those conversations. And I think if we over automate everything and make everything too much self-service, we miss, well, from a software company perspective, you miss the conversations that will help you develop a better product. But also from a user perspective, we are restricted to only using the software in the way that we're told to.
Yeah, I think that's a very succinct and good way of describing it. And in an industry that arguably has always struggled to be outward facing to people, it's very tempting to rush towards that. Oh, great. But I mean, if I get sent one more notification to justify why my software is good because they've added an AI tool that doesn't work in it, it just... but what we are all crying out for is that deeper piece of I think that deeper piece and understanding about machine learning is something I'm really interested in. Just the plethora of communications that are coming out now.
But talk me through
really,
it. Tell me why this is important to me. What is it going to do for me?
Absolutely.
How is it going to help me? Again, it's the age-old thing, isn't it? Talk about the benefits, not the features. God, I sound like a marketer.
We've gone all the way around. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap round. But if people... Maybe you're in charge of a software company, or maybe you're in charge of marketing for a software company. Both of us are for hire, but
correct.
But tell us how people can get hold of you and what sort of stuff you're interested in, and if they want to know more, can they get in touch?
So LinkedIn's a good place. Just go to Lucy Whittington on LinkedIn or lucywhittington.com. It's fairly straightforward. I've got other websites, but they're the easiest ways to find me. If you're thinking about launching something, we should have already spoken. Is all I'll say about that.
I'm happy to talk, though. Anyway, that is another unedited conversation. I want to thank Lucy for joining us today. And wherever you are and whatever you're doing and whatever you're promoting, do it well and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap on another episode of Unedited. Make sure to like, subscribe and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. Find all of our updates on your favourite social media and podcast platforms. Just search for the Unedited Podcast.